Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a very highly requested firearm. This is the Taurus TX 22. I've been reviewing a few of these 22 caliber pistols lately, and how better to save money but still get your gun fixed than going out and shooting some 22. So these 22 pistols and rifles have been really popular this year. Now, this of course is a Taurus, and in the past I have kind of foo-fooed Taurus as being a budget company. You guys know, and I will fully admit it, at times I might be a little bit of a brand snob. But I've reviewed some of these more budget-friendly options in the past and really been kind of surprised. So I got this out of the box, and by the way, this gun is on loan to the channel from my good friend Jack, who has lent me so many awesome firearms from his collection. So there's a few things about this gun, just handling it, my initial impressions that I like and don't like. So let's go over those real fast. First off, let's go over some things that I really like. I think for a budget gun, this gun is really finished very nice. The metal that they use here on the slide is really solid. It doesn't feel like pot metal, it doesn't feel cheap. The polymer frame feels really nice. I even like the size. One of the things I don't like about mini 22s that are scaled down versions of larger firearms is the fact that they scale them down too much, which you obviously have to do when you're cycling 22 ammunition in a semi-automatic pistol. But this is a pretty substantial size gun, so you feel like you're holding a much bigger firearm. Besides the fit and the finish, a couple things aesthetically that I like is the front and rear cocking serrations. As you can see up there, that's really nice. Obviously this comes with a threaded barrel, which would allow you to attach a suppressor if you have one. Now, a couple things that I've noticed that I don't like about this, I don't like the look of this ejection port. And I know this is kind of a qualitative thing because it's obviously, well, hopefully going to function correctly. But when it comes to this side ejection where you don't see any type of barrel hood up here, it kind of reminds me a little bit of a High Point, which is an even more budget-friendly option. But it kind of looks a little bit goofy in that way. But as I said, that's more of an aesthetic choice, more of a qualitative thing. Something else that I noticed about this gun that I didn't like is this safety. Now, I'm not sure if this is on all of the TX22s or just this particular example. Right now, the safety is not on, and let me show you guys as well that this gun is safety checked. There is no ammunition here. But when I put the magazine in, you think, okay, I've loaded a round, I'm gonna put the safety on. Well, this magazine safety is extremely loose. See if I can get that on camera there. Like, I can't even describe it well enough. It just feels very cheap and very chintzy. It does work, but the detent isn't very strong. I would not say that that is a high quality safety. Even when the safety is on, it's easily manipulated off. The detent on it just doesn't feel good. So the safety, I don't know. This is a sample size of one, so I don't know if it's that way across the board, but this particular one, the safety to me is very chintzy, doesn't seem to work that well. Something else that I noticed is you have this type of a ledge here around the trigger guard, which goes just under the magazine release. And because this ledge sticks out so far, it's actually kind of hard sometimes to hit that magazine release button. I don't know why they would have an elevated area around the button. You would think you would want as much area around it as possible to get the best purchase, but that's not the case. So if you miss it or you come at it at the wrong angle, you might not have pressed the button far enough to get the magazine out. Now, when I do go to the range, there is something I discover about these magazines. One thing I really like, one thing I don't. This magazine, first and foremost, holds 15 or 16 rounds of 22. That is awesome for a factory mag. One of my complaints with mini 22s is they usually only hold 10 rounds of ammunition. Not sure if that's a political move or just the practicality of a rimmed cartridge. Might be a little bit of both. But some companies do offer higher capacity 22 magazines. And Taurus gives you a 15 or 16 round capacity right out of the box. I really like that. That makes going to the range and plinking with a 22 a lot more enjoyable. But the one thing about the magazine I don't like is the tabs on the side here, which help you load the magazine, are very small. I can barely get my fingers in there, and when loading the magazine, it was actually a little bit difficult. especially as the magazine gets loaded past 10, 11, or 12 rounds, it's hard to depress those tabs. Well, for me anyway. I got kind of beefy fingers. But let's see what my first shots and my initial impressions are after putting some rounds down range. Alright, so far it looks like we're good to go on this thing. It really does feel really nice in my hand, and of course it is extremely low recoil, being 22. And being so large, it kicks even less than your typical 22 pistol. I really like that. It feels so nice in my hand. So far, seems to be relatively accurate and reliable. So right now, I'm really happy with how this thing is performing. Well, I'm going to go and take my time on this third magazine now, go for the head, and see if I can tighten up this group a little bit more. Alright, so once again, it did pretty good. We only had one failure to feed, and that's to be expected when it comes to anything chambered in 22 semi-automatic. Now, what I do think the issue is although you can load the magazine to 16 rounds, I think you should only load it to about 15. When I put that 16th round in there, it is a little tight. So you might have some feeding issues, and if you notice, it happened earlier in the magazine. So that's what I think the issue really was. Just don't overload the magazine, probably about 15 rounds. All right, so I'm now going to give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this and see what she thinks. Alright, so she shot it, enjoyed it, it was okay for her. She thought it was pretty accurate. She did have one complaint about it though, and I think it's because her hands are a little bit small. She did say that the distance between the back of the grip and the front of the trigger face was a little bit too long for her liking. It's something that she could overcome, but she felt it was just a little bit longer than most pistols. Now, I mentioned when this video started that I like the size of this gun. I have larger hands, and that's one of the things I actually did kind of like about this, but she felt that distance was a little bit too long. Now, when I was filming that segment for her, I noticed that the ejection of the spent casings was actually going to about the 3 or the 4 o'clock position, but they were going downward. They weren't going up or out. They were going downward. I don't know if that's just an artifact of the nature of this ejection port, which is on the side, and so it doesn't allow the cartridges to go upward. I'm not sure if that's a design thing and it's meant to do that. It didn't seem to have any issues when it came to reliability, but I'm not 100% sure. I like the fact that this thing ejects in a downward direction. So now I'm going to go ahead and do something that I always do in all of these 22 pistol and rifle tests, and I know it's probably not going to work, but I'm going to try some standard velocity 22. Sometimes these things cycle, sometimes they don't, sometimes they cause major issues. Well, I'm going to run some CCI standard velocity through this and just see what happens. Alright, so for the most part that went exactly as I was expecting. I didn't think it was going to cycle standard velocity ammunition, but the one thing that did surprise me is when I tried to cycle the action manually after it had already tried to cycle with a standard velocity ammo. It had a lot of malfunctions, constant double feeds, constant failures to eject. It was kind of weird. So this thing can be maybe a little bit picky on ammo, but obviously I wasn't expecting it to run. I'm always hoping it will, but I knew it wouldn't. But with all those failures I was having just trying to manually cycle the gun, if you're going to try to run standard velocity ammunition or ultra quiet ammunition with a suppressor to try to get that Hollywood quiet sound, you actually might have some issues with this. And that's really why I think people would want to run standard velocity through this gun, to get the quietest 22 sound that you can using a suppressor. So you may have some problems manually cycling this gun. But let's have a little fun now. It wouldn't be a range trip with a 22 if you don't go rapid fire. Man, that was a lot of fun. The trigger on this thing is actually pretty good. You can get follow-up shots really fast. It has a nice clean reset. I did notice though, after shooting it rapid fire, I did put a couple of extra magazines through it because I had already run out of my CCI mini mags and I moved on to my Federal, which is a lead bullet. This gun does not like lead ammunition as much as it does the copper-plated CCI mini mags. No, yes, CCI mini mags are the best 22s out there, generally for plinking. This thing is actually pretty picky with ammo. So I'm going to load the magazine up again, and this is just going to be with standard high-velocity Federal lead 22. And you guys are going to see I actually have some problems with it. Alright, so this gun might be a little bit picky on ammo. It might be a budget gun, but I think it has expensive tastes. Now, I think that would be the biggest downside to this. So let me give you guys my final thoughts. And Everything being said and done, I really think the ammo issue is this gun's biggest fault. Now, I only have a sample size of 1. I totally understand that. And there's probably going to be people in the comment section below saying, my TX22 doesn't do that. It's not that picky. And that might be the case, but I only have 1 gun, and that's all I can give you guys my personal thoughts and opinions on. This gun being a budget gun, you're going to want to run budget ammo, just basic high velocity 22, right? It likes the expensive stuff, or so it seems. And even if you wanted to run it with a suppressor and cycle the action manually, it's still picky on that ammunition. So I don't like that. I'm going to have to deduct a few points. But overall, I think this is a very, very high quality gun at a very good price point. As I mentioned before, sometimes I've been kind of known as being a brand snob, and maybe I really shouldn't be that way. But I think Taurus has a nice little offering here. It has a lot of things going for it. So I'll give you guys another close-up here. I think it's an attractive gun. For me, it's very ergonomic. It appears to be very well built. I like the front and rear cocking serrations, as I mentioned, but it does have a few issues that I've talked about with the ledge around the magazine release, the weird safety that doesn't seem to work very well. It seems to be very, very flimsy. Like the magazine capacity, but it's a little bit hard to load. Maybe you want to underload it to about 15. And I think its biggest downside is that it's picky on ammo. So you really got to run the nicer 22 through it. But you may have one that runs great on everything. But anyway, I think this is a very nice offering from Taurus, and if you're looking for a nice little plinking 22, this might be the way to go. So if you like Taurus firearms in general, this might be something that you also want to add to your collection. So on my little star system, how would I rate the TX22 by Taurus? Well, I'm only going to give it 3.5 stars out of 5. And I know some people out there are going to tell me this is the most amazing 22 that has ever been created because they have one, absolutely love it, and it's the gun that they have chosen for their personal collection, and the fact that I had some issues with it, they're going to feel as though I'm slamming their gun, and that is not the case whatsoever. I think there's a lot of good value in this firearm. But for me, if I was going to purchase this gun, as I said, as a budget gun, I'm going to want to shoot budget ammo through it. And the gun seems to be just a little bit too picky. It has a couple of function issues like this safety. It just feels a little bit flimsy. But I think it's a good gun overall. 3.5 stars out of 5 for the Taurus TX22. I love the high capacity magazines. It's better than pretty much all of its competitors that only offer 10 rounds at a time. You get some nice options in here. Not 100% a fan of all the aesthetic choices, like I said, the ejection port, but I could get over it if this was my 22 range pistol. So there you go. Do you guys own a TX22? What do you guys think of it? Is yours as picky with ammo as this one is? I'd love to know in the comments section below. So as always, thanks for watching.